Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 156 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we're going to work on building some agricultural modules. Enjoy. Well, I kind of want to connect that, because I want to do this research, but actually we might be able to do this research with what we have on hand, because I want to build these as well. Now, getting that alien plant life over here is going to be a little difficult, but hopefully we'll be able to do it. It is going to be a little tricky. But it is the fourth module type that we'll probably be using quite a bit, so let's just grab them, and then that's as far as we can take them. Although we have what we need to research Module 3, we don't have any of the previous research necessary for it, so I wonder, do the agricultural packs need to be in here? Probably. Not sure if I could just put them in there. I mean, there isn't a slot for them, which does have me concerned. See, what's interesting about this is that these biome planners aren't researched in the regular lab. I wonder if that's a bug. Because, like, the optimized biome planners go into all of the normal labs. But I guess that the labs can't share their resources or something like that, so they're not making it in here. I'm going to look into that real quick. Alright, I'm back. For the life of me, I could not figure out why the biome packs aren't there. They should be. The mods are making an attempt to put them there. And I tried to make my own little patch to force them in there, and I couldn't get it to work either. And at some point, I just have to be like, I have to just ignore it. But there is a little slightly cheaty solution to this, because although I couldn't figure it out and the mod doesn't have it working, we can go into the editor and use the editor extensions. Yeah, it's hard to get that thing there, but we can put a super lab in here. It's mainly meant for testing. You see its research speed is 150, so basically instantaneous. And of course it's completely overpowered in every sense of the word, and it can take every single type of item that can be researched. That's fine. And we'll just use this temporarily, just to get these agricultural modules taken care of, and then we can replace it. And I don't think that the problem with these labs not having that agricultural packs on there is necessarily a conflict of a mod. I don't know, maybe, but I'd have to start uninstalling all manners of things to figure out why that's not working. And I think this is just the easier solution here. This is kind of the problem you run into as your save file has more and more mods, is that eventually they start conflicting. Or even if they're not conflicting, it'd be very difficult to figure out exactly what a cause of a problem is without just tearing everything apart. So sometimes you have to accept defeat and just use a cheaty solution to keep the factory growing. And that's what we're doing here. So our setup here is definitely producing... Oh yeah, look at that. Producing all of those bio samples. And seed production is occurring on 2 out of the 3 of these anyway. No extra seed types yet, but I kind of want to let the system reach equilibrium first before hooking it up. But I guess it wouldn't matter, actually, now that I think about it, because all of these biosamples that have been passed through are extras. The system is otherwise operating as intended, because this makes sure we always have 100, so these are free to use. And actually, we have even more than that, because look at that. We've got 400 of them in this supply depot already. So we've got even more than it appears. Okay. Well, we can come over here. Set up a very short drone path. And we could probably just use the same belt here. So we have a request depot. Requesting the alien plant lives. And put 1 drone in there. And this will get started. And we can set it down there to jumpstart this process. I'm just going to go over here and grab the samples themselves, so we don't have to wait on the drone to take forever to get its fuel. Look at all of that. It took a while to get it, but finally we're starting to have a collection of plant life. I don't think we've ever seen so much of it in one place before. It's kind of a difficult thing to get. And there it'll go. Meanwhile, exactly how many of these planters are we going to need? 25 and 50. So we need 75. And hey, there we go. Making the silver request. First time in a long time. Alright, so when we dump the resources in here, it should basically instantly research. Well, as fast as the inserters can go, anyway. Oh, come on. So close. Need one more. I was thinking that, oh, maybe I should bring an extra one. Just in case, but I'm like, but it said 100%. That's exactly what we need. It should be fine. Nope. And yet more aluminum. Might actually start having to produce some of it in a little bit. But it's not going to go too far because all of that massive pile of sodium hydroxide is starting to disappear. But it's nice to see that the bus is starting to clear itself out and get back into not being limited. Operating normally. Still got a ways to go though, but it's getting there. Actually, doing some military research might clear it up enough to make it go. So we might want to see if there's any military research we can do just to see how the system works. Thanks. Alright. Well, that's done. So we'll come back in here, drop the normal lab in there. I don't like doing all this military research ahead of when we actually need all this stuff. Because a lot of it is basically waiting on the new bus to be built. Because I don't want to keep building all this stuff on the bus. But one thing that might not be an entire waste of time is the better forms of ammo. Because it probably won't be built on the bus. Because it's very chemical. So the way it would work is that we want to make ammo magazines, and you actually now have to build all of the individual components to it. We have a magazine and bullets that have to go into that. And then you can make the magazines from steel, and the bullets themselves. You have the projectile, just copper and lead. The bullet casing, which is gunmetal. And then the cordite, which would come down here, which is gun cotton, petroleum jelly, and nitroglycerin. The nitroglycerin we can make from another process using some of that glycerol liquid that we've been just kind of throwing away, and more acids. And gun cotton and petroleum jelly. Gun cotton, wood and nitric acid, and petroleum jelly is residual gas, which is a little weird, but we do have it. So that is a process we can go down to make better ammo. And kind of the question is, how much better is this ammo than what we have? It's probably fairly significantly better. Probably just have to remember the numbers here. So it holds 10 ammo and does 8 regular and 2 pierce. But this holds 25, so it's much more efficient as far as like the actual ammo stacks are concerned. And does 16 damage, so there's no pierce damage, but it does, 60% more damage. So it is significant. It's not like we need better ammo quite yet, but I do kind of want to get some research in here to see what happens with nickel. So we'll grab that. Then we can do the bullets. And also the shotgun shells, which is kind of the same thing, just a little simpler. And let's see how that works. Well, it's certainly going fast in the beginning. It almost might not be enough to cause a significant request here, but it does look like Invar is about to be requested. It's really neat to just see all of the colors of ore move around and get sorted. It's almost like too much movement for your eyes and the human brain to comprehend. But when you understand what all this stuff does, it's pretty neat to see. And it's just kind of nuts that it's doing all of this. Because if it was done by a person, that would be very monotonous. But it's looking good. Wondering if this system is going to get used enough to where we can see it operate. Well, if we're patient enough, maybe. Because once this gets below 20,000, another process will start up, and then it'll have to start fighting for ore. Okay, that research is done. Let's see how this catches up. So that gets below 20,000. And now ore is being produced this way from powder. And it's starting to siphon off resources. Sapphirite specifically. And it's operating normally. But you notice now, this system, it can't get all of the resources it needs. So now that it's below 800, it's shut off here. And now there's still a buffer in this warehouse, and it'll run down. But this setup is already designed to use all of the sapphirite in the factory. You see it's kind of hovering right here because that's what it's basically doing. It's using a full belt. So instead of having this somewhat less efficient, still efficient, but somewhat less efficient process stealing its resources, now that it's a little low, this warehouse isn't getting ore anymore. Now, it still had its supply, and it doesn't really matter because that was already on the downstream on the belt from that other process. So it's not hurting it any, but eventually it's going to run out, and then that belt's going to empty, and that ore won't be available anymore. But that's kind of how that works. This is still going in aluminum, despite us actually producing quite a bit of it. It's still going down. Oh yeah. And before long, production will stop because there won't be any sodium hydroxide anymore. But it seems to be working so far. And the bot's finished up. At least on the top part. I don't think they can reach to the bottom. So we need to get this set up. Oh man, look how close. How close it got. That's basically as far as it can go without blocking the train. Ouch. So we want to do productivity 1. Out of assemblers, that's kind of a weird thing to be out of. So let's go down and get some more. While we're down there, we probably can move the silver over back into the regular warehouse. There we go, we'll just unhook everything. And let it flow. And that's an awesome sight to see. Collecting silicon again. So we just need to have a tin request at some point. And then hopefully the whole system will be in balance again. And how are seeds doing? Well, I guess we're producing some because they got on the wrong spot of the belt here. And on that one too. Oh, looks like I copy-pasted some settings here. That actually needs to be the whitelist. See, that one's on whitelist still. So it's just that one. Okay, well, just gotta clear up all the instances of those resources being in the wrong spot. It's kind of annoying because they're all over the place. We get the Kendall Lion, which means we have all 5 seed types for the temperate garden. I kind of wish that didn't start like that. But let's change the recipe. And now, it can just be like everything else. Making the plant life samples. I'll leave all the belts hooked up and whatnot for now. And we'll let these other 2 run until they get the necessary seed types. They've all essentially shut off, these inserters have, because we have more than 200 alien plant life samples, so that's basically maxed out. So now they're just going to fill up until they're full. And the only thing that's going to be running is the seed generators. Once there's enough gardens, which will take a little while. This one probably won the race because it was first in line to get access to these samples. Let's finish getting this all set up. We got productivity 1s and productivity 2s. And then on this side, we'll have to see what we need to do in order to make it work with the agricultural ones. But we'll have the first tier here, and it's going to need quite a bit of input. And just like on the other setups, the boards and contacts will come through the middle, which covers this one. And of course, efficiency module 1 comes from the other side, and over here it can pick up its solder. But the ones on the end have some pretty big requirements. It requires both module types, solder, and alien plant life samples. Well, we have the other module types just right here, so they can come in on a belt. It will kind of fill up a belt, which is a little annoying. But they can come in on a belt, and it looks like we have to space this out by 1. And then we'll need another belt with the solder and alien plant life. But the solder can kind of be attached through here and just have another splitter right there. So, unfortunately, I think this whole thing needs to move a single square to the left. And let's grab the robots for that. Meanwhile, how are resources doing? Silver continues to decrease. Silicon has actually hit its set point. Well, either it hit its set point or nickel got maxed out again, preventing it from running. But otherwise pretty good. The dust train is still waiting. I'm fine with leaving it down there for now, unless we find ourselves out of resources necessary to make some of these modules, and we are sort of running out already. You can see that we got some empty belts here because the crystals have run out. But that's okay. As long as it keeps working long enough to test, and eventually it'll catch up. And we'll want to try to set this up in a way to use the least amount of resources, but I don't think there's really any way to actually do that. We just need productivity and efficiency. Actually, one thing I kind of want to do is make sure we always have at least a minimum supply of some things. So this is trying to fill up. Let's just change this back to productivity 2 here. But it's just trying to fill up to 1,000. But let's say if it's more than, I don't know, like 800, it can pass the resources through. Because I hate to produce all of these productivity modules, which is the thing we really need with modules right now, and then use them all on agricultural modules and have none left over. It'd be kind of bad. So we'll have something doing an output here. And we can do another one coming from efficiency modules, and luckily that's just the order that it worked out. So the belts were as short as possible. That was not intentional. So we'll need something similar here, but set to efficiency, and let's just set this one to speed there. So that should have those two things combined on that belt. We'll wait until later to make sure it's all good. Then we need some inputs on the other side. Then we'll have a box right there to insert the plant life samples. For now, I'm not going to worry about sending them by drone, because that would be a really long path for something that we probably don't need that many of. That just remembering to come down here and throw some plant life in here should be enough to keep this running. That should work. It's kind of a lot going on. I'm going to need to double check. And as far as the math with the number of assembling machines, making these module contacts, we will need 5 contacts for this one and 9 there. So we need 14 total. So we just need to do a rate calculator to figure out how much do we need to make 14 per second. Basically to there. So these last 2 are unnecessary. Well, I think we can start hooking all this up and see how it works. Actually, now that I think about it, I do a lot of driving between these two sections because it's a lot shorter than going that way. So because of that, it's probably worth putting a drone path going like straight through here and actually delivering those resources, because I actually drive the path a bit, so I would benefit from it as well, from less dodging trees. Well, one potential problem I noticed is that although these require efficiency and productivity module 1s, these ones require module 2s to combine. So it's going to be a little annoying since I'm not putting any of these items on a bus. I see where my error was. I clicked on productivity module 2 rather than agricultural 1. So actually it's a lot simpler than it was being made out to be, because we just need these two modules and alien plant life, so we don't actually have to start at tier 1 and work our way up with the agricultural modules. We just need to combine them. So because of that, this whole setup probably needs to be adjusted, which basically means picking the whole thing up. Well, because of that, let's get this other setup running first, and then look at it in a bit. And it appears like it does not need any contacts at all. So the most we need is 9. So let's see how many of these machines would make 9. Basically that exactly, so we don't need anything lower. And I'll just leave them in the double stacked variety here, just to keep it consistent with everything else. But otherwise, we should have most everything hooked up here to test it and see how it works, so let's hook it all up and see what happens. Well, I see green lights, so that's probably gonna work. So let's figure out this agricultural module here. It's actually not much to it, just 40 machines, and they probably could just be in a line, making module 2s. And then they have their 2 belts of inputs. Let's see, the plant life samples are probably going to come up here and like combine up here with the solder, so that's going to come down. And then the modules are going to come up through the bottom. And then we can do some on each side. And then they'll have their output. And we'll need 40 of them to use up the whole output. So let's try to line it up. Right there. Right there. And these outputs can combine. Into a single chest. With that limiter on there to make sure that we have no more than 1,000, which is probably way too many, honestly. Actually, now that I think about it, let's do 100 and go from there. So we don't make that many farms. So that's slowly filling up. We need to get the plant life in here. I'll just hook this up and let it fill up. So now we need to build a road going diagonal this way. Looks like it worked pretty well, not block any ore patches. And in fact, if we kind of do a little zigzag here, we can connect this whole area together, which will make driving around a little easier. So we got to get a lot of road. Of course, it always uses more than I think it does, so we'll get a lot of road and it'll get to work. It actually might be easier to start the road from up here. Of course, this is completely blocking this off, but functionally speaking, we can't really expand this any wider than we already have because of the railroad tracks here, so I'm pretty fine with that. But let's do the road. How about along here? It looks like there is a little bit of forest. Alright, we got a nice little road here built. Creating a loop. Just notice that this road looks 1 square too thick. And I can't abide by that. It's kind of hard to make diagonal roads. They always look a little weird. And it's hard to make them just right. But our frontier is becoming more connected with every episode. So we need to put our depot here. Kind of the whole point of doing this. And request the plant life sample. And a single drone ought to be okay. And fill that in. Looks like in the meantime it's been creating the modules to go into the agricultural modules. And it's basically maxed out here because all the crystals are gone. So not much choice here. But how is the bus? Actually kind of starting to run a little bit low on aluminum. Tin and nickel still high. We've actually caught up on silicon. I want to do a little bit more military research here. I realize that we keep researching more military things we don't need, but let's just say whenever we decide to build weapons, we will have a great many choices of weapon systems to build. Well, the most costly thing we can do is the prototype artillery. Now, we can't actually build it yet, so it kind of makes me a little iffy about researching it because we need the electric motors first. But that's not that far in the future. And it unlocks all these little artillery pieces. Can only fire at spawners, not capable of manual targeting. I don't feel like we need that yet, but 1500 research will take quite a bit of resources to do. So let's hit that. And rather than wait around for the plant life to get here, let's go pick up a drone's worth. Now it's easier to make my way around here. We could check on the seeds too. So grab that. How are seeds doing? Looks like it's not quite at the point of producing seeds there. I kind of don't want this farm to be running anymore, but I wonder if these numbers are too small. Basically, because we have a lot of seed extractors, and every time the seed extractors go, it might pull more than 10 gardens at a time, which means that the various systems might be running too often. So I'm going to increase these numbers. Basically double them. So without the seed extractor making seeds there, it's just 20 gardens to start, 40 to stop this one, and 80 to stop that one. So it might take a while to build those up. So we'll see how those numbers go. It's probably just going to take a while for everything to completely catch up here. More invars on the way. I want to see what happens to the bus when it activates. I don't mind the warehouse being high, I just don't want it all the way up on the stopper at 80,000. So let's see what starts up when this goes below 80. Probably some form of silicon production. Nope. I guess it's just tin now that's holding things back. Well good, then that number's going to go down and it's actually going to stay down now. So we just need to make some kind of tin request. But that'll take time. I wasn't even paying attention that despite that being a large research, it looks like it went pretty fast. Whoops. I saw the solder coil there. That's pretty good. Because tin goes into that. There it goes. And right now, because we have a high level of zinc, it's tin and zinc that's getting used, as opposed to lead. So we get rid of it because it's basically a byproduct. Now that means the tin level's going down. We'll definitely have something activate when tin goes down because you see we have some green lights here. So the red lights are marking the ones that are stopped, but we have 2 that are trying to turn on. So when tin gets below 80,000, we're definitely going to have some things clicking on here. I think it's just for silicon. And there we go. Oh man, that's going to produce a lot of tin. But we're making silicon now. Now we don't have any red lights stopping anything. The ore bus will be back in balance soon. Which would be fantastic that all of the logic upgrades and finally using that silver and aluminum will hopefully fix all of these clogs. Alright. We had our alien plant life, which we can dump in here. And I think that's the last thing that we needed. And this process should start up. It's only going to produce 100 modules. And we don't have that many modules in the first place because we're short on the red ones. So this will only go for so long. It looks like it needs some time to fill up with the samples, but otherwise, there's the modules getting produced. Okay. And only so many go down because we hit our set point with basically 800, so it wouldn't suck any more out of here. Well, let's grab some modules and see what we can do with all of these. Took a long time to get here. But it's awfully nice now that we've gotten here. We'll have to let the farming ones run a bit. Although actually, it's building up a pretty quick store. Just took a little while to get going. I'll grab what we've got. Alright, another upgrade. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we are going to put some of those fancy new modules to use and upgrade some of our processes. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.